Welcome back to SportsZone. I am joined by Mauricio Garcia and Omar Najm, and we got to talk some Dallas Cowboys football. They started off the season opening night last Thursday. It was a good game. I think it was a good game in the sense that you competed with Philadelphia, but in the end of the day, it's a 24-20 loss. So there's no good losses in the NFL. We've heard that term. But it was a good game, I'll say. It was exciting. So, Mauricio, walk us through it. What did you see from this Cowboys game that took a lot longer, I think, than we were expecting?
20-24, that's a score that, not a lot of people could predict. I was, hearing, we're going to be blown out by, 50 or so points in that game. The first drive right here, Ceedee Lamb completing a 32-yard Ceedee Lamb catching a 32-yard pass from Dak Prescott, going down here to the sideline, gets tackled down. Nothing too bad. He can't do the no celebration, which kind of sucks, because he'll get fined. But here we go. Devontae Williams, first touchdown of the game.
Yep.
Gives us, our first, opening drive of the season, last year. But after this, here we go. Second and goal right here. Dak scrambling over here. Give that to Jalen Hurts right here for the first touchdown.
Yeah, the Eagles responded pretty quickly, and it was a back and forth first half. We saw some incredible plays by the Cowboys. Ceedee was pretty good in the first half. We'll talk about the second half a little bit later. Devontae Williams obviously punched in 2 rushing touchdowns in that first half. But we saw the Eagles bouncing back pretty quickly, and I think the main question was the defense. It was there was no defense in the first half, and then the second half, it was a complete opposite story. So, Omar, I'll ask you, what did you see from the Cowboys in that first half specifically?
I think it was pretty good. They were super underrated, they were not favored. They were everyone was expecting a blowout. So for the defense to play and hold Saquon to under 100 rushing yards was really good. So I think that's a plus for the team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everything sort of was weird when you saw that lightning strike right there because it delayed the game for about an hour. It was a wild third quarter rain delay. It took a while for the teams to get going. And then coming out after that delay, it just felt like it was a totally different game. The two striking offenses kind of disappeared for a moment, and the defense took over. Mauricio, what did you see from the defenses in that second half?
We got to give it to Matt Eberflus, being able to take over this defense. It's Micah Parsons as of now, but being able to keep Saquon under center is really great. But sort of we're missing the other rusher, Jalen Hurts, being able to push in those 2 touchdowns in that game. That is really surprising to me, just because why wasn't there someone watching Hurts, especially in the last few moments, being able to give him that first down to be able to secure that game, being able to hold him to towards the second down and the third down, just fall apart. But Eberflus, big round of applause right there. You've done it. You are now the DC for the Dallas Cowboys. But Brian Schottenheimer, what else could you say? That was a good play calling in that first half right there, up 20. But then afterwards, it just seemed like just a standstill, what happened? Did you leave the game, Schottenheimer? Did you leave the game or something, But, other than that, this is something sort of positive to look forward to, especially for the Cowboys fans, and then going into next week with the Giants, it's going to be something more exciting as well.
Yeah, for sure. It was a kind of bipolar type of game. First half, second half, it was wild. But I think zooming in on the defense, I wanted to talk a little more about that because Matt Eberflus, it was different this time. He didn't – this is a stat I saw today. Not one single man coverage throughout the entire game. It was all zone, a lot of cover 3. This is what he banked on. But like you said, I wish he had thrown in a QB spy, especially on that last play, just to adjust to especially a running team like the Eagles. But I'll ask you, Omar, what did you see from Eberflus and Brian Schottenheimer, the new coaches in town?
I'll start with Brian Schottenheimer. I think he played really well with the pre-snap motion.
Yes.
That was needed. I felt like Mike McCarthy never did that. It was actually, looking at the stats, he was 29th last season. And if they would have done all the pre-snaps that they did, it would have been 4th.
Yep.
So big difference. I love that. Putting Ceedee Lamb in the running back position I think was great. I thought Turpin was really good as well. I feel like it'll take some time for George Pickens to get in to the offense, but I think is really well. And for the defense, they did miss Micah Parsons a little because I feel like he would have been a great quarterback spy. But for them to, again, hold Saquon for under 100 rushing yards, that's success. I just feel like they need to get the linebackers moving a little more and try to counter the QB sneaks or QB runs and all that. So
Yeah, like you said, I think the run defense was a lot better. Kenny Clark, I think, made a big impact on that. Unfortunately, the pass rush, not as good, and that's the reality of not having Micah Parsons. You can ask the Packers. Their pass rush was much improved. So that's just the reality of it. But we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Ceedee Lamb, please catch a ball. My goodness. I mean, he's like 4 times dropped. 4 drops. That's, I believe, career high for him. And it was pretty heartbreaking. I mean, just looking at our graphic here, he could not grab the ball in that 4th quarter specifically. I mean, there were multiple chances on those last couple drives for you to go in, score, especially in that last one. I mean, you could have been in the red zone, just hold on to the ball. First one through his arms, that last one on 4th down. It was a tough one. You had to reach out for it, but still, right through. Those are plays that you need your superstar, your highly paid wide receiver 1 to make. Omar, why couldn't he reel in the ball? What was it?
I don't know. You know, when you start dropping footballs, like, I guess it just, you know, you mentally are like, you psych yourself out, and that's possibly what it could have happened. That last one was a little bit of a tough catch, I'll be honest.
Wasn't easy.
But those 2 drops that he had early in the game, too, were just super tough. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a break because he played an outstanding game. But at the same time, to win Super Bowls, you have to make plays in the big moments. And sometimes the Cowboys struggle on that. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Ceedee Lamb obviously was still your leading receiver. He had over 100 yards, and it's like normally you look at that by itself, and it's like, oh, that's great, but you can't ignore that he should have had 200 yards and a couple touchdowns probably, and the Cowboys could have won that game. And instead, literally slips right through your hands. But there were a couple miscues. We saw that Miles Sanders run as well going back to the first half, or before the rain delay, should I say. I mean, Miles Sanders, it's like if you could just – I know the speed's not quite what it was, but I feel like you got to bring that through.
Yeah.
And then you fumble on the ensuing possession. George Pickens had that penalty. It just feels like once again with the Cowboys, all these little reasons, little ways, they found a way to lose the game. And we talk about it. The good teams find a way to win. You saw the Bills last night, if you guys want to talk about that for a minute. But the Cowboys found a way to lose. Mauricio, how do the Cowboys find a way to win next week against New York?
I mean, just fix up on those sloppy mistakes, you know, with Ceedee Lamb being able to drop those passes in crunch time. You know, that's where you show out more as a receiver, being able to, you can have the flashy, like, 110, like, receiving yards, 7 catches. But if you can't catch the football in those crunch times, how are you going to be able to, like, divide yourself from, like, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chase, you know, how are you going to be able to differentiate yourself from that? And then also with Miles Sanders, you know, I mean, you just got to hold on to the ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
no kidding.
what, do you have like butter hands or something? Butterfingers from both like a receiver and running back, you know? I mean, it's just those like small things that you said add up, you know? And I mean, even with all that, Dak Prescott kind of might be MVP of the future, hopefully. Hopefully, 90% completion, or he was a 90% like on the dot with his receivers that whole game, you know? And just, he was just on point that whole game. And it was just so surprising, but like also just so like, just so hopeful to see what they do in the future as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because Dak Prescott takes a lot of heat, as always, but he was not the reason you lost that game. In fact, he was the reason that you were in it. I mean, Dak Prescott, you look at the box score and it's like, okay, nothing wild, but he was very on point. His throws were truly just drops in the bucket. That's why I was like, man, why can't you make these catches? But he was awesome. A 90 PFF grade, if you're into that, the advanced stats, really had a strong showing. Omar, what do you think Dak can do going into next week with this team? He hasn't lost to the Giants since his rookie year. Do you think he can keep that streak going?
Oh, I think for sure. The Giants seem to always struggle against Dak Prescott. And I think all they have to do is run the football, protect the ball, and maybe get a deep pass like George Pickens, you know, get him involved a little more, but I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, we'll have to see, and we'll talk about real quick, I got to talk about it. The Bills game was wild. I mean, I noticed the Cowboys blog, but we got to mention that. Sunday Night Football, you had perhaps the game of the year in Week 1. Omar, just run me through it real quick. The Bills, Ravens, what did you think of that comeback from Buffalo?
It was great. They found ways to win, and that's what
we talked about.
Teams do, especially if you want to make it to the AFC Championship. Cowboys, if you want to make it to the NFC Championship, you got to find ways to win, and that's what they did. They were down 14 with like 8 minutes to go. They found ways to win, and that's what the Cowboys need to do.
Yeah, and you could argue the Ravens also found ways to lose with that Derrick Henry fumble. Mauricio, what did you see from that game?
Hey, man, I can't complain. You know, Lamar Jackson helped me win against fantasy this week, so I really can't complain. But, I mean, Derrick Henry fumbling, I mean, it could be a sign of age, but even then, it's also just like you see his stats, impeccable at his age. I mean, you can't really complain about that.
Yeah, he was great, and I won't complain because that fumble actually kind of won me my fantasy game. So it's all good, but it's a long NFL season ahead, and I can't wait to keep talking about it. But for now, we're going to go to season kind of wrapping up and talk about some MLB baseball and the Texas Rangers.